Hey guys, so in this video we are going to see how we can use the while loop to repeat instructions in our program and also how to increment variables. So let's start. So right now we are on step number 5 where we are basically seeing which player wins the round, and on step number 6 we repeat all this until one of the players wins 2 rounds. And basically a round is all these steps. So from step number 2 to step number 5, it's a full round. So when the game starts, the player chooses that he's playing with odds or evens. That only happens once at the beginning. And then on each round, each player chooses a number. We sum both numbers, check if the result is odd or even, and according to that, one of the players wins. And we need to repeat this until one of the players wins at least 2 rounds. So, and here we have 2 different questions that we need to deal with. First, we need to check. We need to a way to see or to know how many wins each player has. So, how many rounds each player has won. And second, we need a way to repeat all these instructions until one of the players reaches 2 wins. So, the first thing that we need, we already know how to solve it, because basically what we need is a way to store the number of wins of each player. And for that, we already know that we can use a variable. So at the beginning of the program, we can declare 2 new variables to store the win count of each one of the players. And we know that at the beginning, each player will start with a win count of 0, and then we are going to increment the win count each time one of the players wins the round. So let's start by declaring a new variable called player win count that starts with 0, and we can do exactly the same for the computer. So computer win count that starts also with 0. So these 2 variables start at 0 at the beginning of the program, and now we are going to use these variables or increment these variables by 1 each time one of the players wins the round. And we know that we have that here on step number 5. So when the result is even, the computer wins the round. So here we are going to increment the computer win count by 1. And we already know that we can use the plus operator to sum values. So we can use something like this. But here we are not actually incrementing the computer win count, because what we want to do is that our variable starts with the value 0, and here what we want to do, okay, now our variable is going to have the value 1, and if the computer wins again, our variable is going to have the value 2, and so forth. So here we are not doing that. Basically what we are doing, we are just summing values and not doing anything with the result. So we need to actually assign this result to our variable. So here, what we are doing is that we are adding the number 1 to the current value that we have on the computer win count, and then we are assigning the result of that expression to our computer win count variable. So when we get here, if the computer win count is 0, so 0 plus 1 is 1, and then the computer win count is 1. And then when it comes again, the computer win count is 1, 1 plus 1, and so the computer win count becomes 2. So this is a way to increment variables. So, but as you can see, this is a lot of work just to increment a variable, because you can see that we are using, okay, it's the variable that is equal to itself plus number 1. So we have a way to make this a little bit simpler to write. And we have 2 ways to make it simpler. So the first way that we can use is something like computer win count, and we use the plus operator and the equal operator 1. And what this statement does is exactly the same as the one on the top. So basically what we are doing is that we are adding the number 1 and assigning the result to the computer win count. This is just like an abbreviation of the other statement. And we can use this statement to increment a variable to whatever number we want. So plus equal 1, plus equal 32, I don't know, 4, whatever. But when we are incrementing a variable by 1, we can still abbreviate this sentence into a more simpler alternative, which is computer win count, and we use plus plus. And the plus plus is exactly the same as this one. So basically what this does is it increments the variable by 1. But please make sure that this statement can only be used to increment by 1. So if you want to increment by any other value, you can use this one, or you can also use like this first one, but it's more complicated. And also, just like you have this computer win count plus plus, you can also use the computer win count minus minus to decrement 1. And for these ones, for this alternative, you can use for all the math operations. So you can use minus plus 1, and you can use, let me just copy this, and you can use with to multiply the times operator, and you can use also for the division. And but for these ones, you can only use for incrementing and decrementing. So basically this is it. So here what we want, I'm going to just remove all this because we don't need it, but what we want is this. So increment the computer win count by 1, and if the player wins the round, we do exactly the same. Player win count plus plus incrementing the player win count by 1. So this solves the first problem. So now we know how many rounds each player won at this moment. Now what we need is a way to repeat until one of the players wins 2 rounds. And here, to repeat statements, to repeat instructions, we are going to use another control flow statement, which is called the while statement. And the while statement has a similar way of writing as the if statement. So you can see it's a while, then you have the parentheses, and you open a block statement with the curly brackets. And what this does is that it's going to repeat the while statement. How it works is that it's going to repeat what's inside the curly brackets as long as the condition that we give it inside the parentheses is true. So it is the same as the if. So you can see like the if runs what's inside when the condition is true, and the while runs what's inside while the condition is true. So it means that while the condition that we are giving here is true, everything that's inside is going to repeat, while the if statement only runs once. So here, what we need to give a condition to repeat these instructions. And the condition that we want, so we are going to repeat this statement. So we are going to repeat all this, and we are doing this to repeat the logic for a single round of our game, which is all this. So we are going to run this until one of the players has a win count equals to 2. So as soon as one of the players has won 2 rounds, the game is over. So that player is the winner of the game. And so basically what we need here is that we are going to run this while the player win count is less than 2. So we are going to repeat this while this is less than 2, and also while the computer win count is also less than 2. So, which means that as soon as the win count of one of the players reaches the number 2, the while is going to stop repeating the rounds and continue with the rest of the execution. So, but here we can see that we have 2 conditions. We have the player win count is less than 2, and the computer win count is also less than 2. So we need another operator to combine these conditions, and that is called the AND operator. And AND operator is this one. Is this one. This is the AND operator. And basically what this does is that it combines in a way these 2 conditions, the one on the right and on the left, and this whole condition, it creates like a whole condition using the other 2, and basically the whole condition is true when both the conditions are also true, and the whole condition is false while both conditions are also false. So basically what this means is that this is going to run while the player min count is less than 2 and while the computer win count is also less than 2. Which means that as soon as one of the variables reaches the value of 2, then the entire condition is no longer true and the while stops repeating. Just so you know, we have the AND operator, which is this one that we are using, which means which works in the way that the AND operator, the condition is true while both conditions are true. And we have the OR operator. And the OR operator works in a way that the OR operator is true as long as one of the conditions is true. So basically, if we use the OR operator here, would happen was that, like, if the player win count is less than 2 or the computer win count is less than 2, what would happen is that this would always be true until both players reach the number 2. And that's not what we want, because what we want is that as soon as one of the players reaches the number 2, then the game is over. So if we use the OR operator, it wouldn't work because it would wait until both players reach the number 2. Because the whole condition will still be true as long as one of the players was still below below the number 2. So here we need to use the AND operator. And now that we have our condition, our loop statement with the while, we can put everything that we had before in our round, and that's between step number 2 and step number 5. And we can put all this inside our while statement. Okay, and this is it. Let me just... yeah, I think it's correct now. Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is it. So while player win count less than 2 and computer win count less than 2, we are going to repeat this. And now if we run our program, what's going to happen is that this is going to run once, and then this is going to run 2 times actually. Oh, because I left the player number equals to 2, so yeah, the computer always wins now. Yeah, so you can see user is odd, computer is evens, user chooses number 2, computer chooses number 2, so computer wins the round. Then we have again, user chooses again number 2, and the computer chooses again number 2, and the computer wins the round, and only then it stops. And this is because we are always using these numbers, so the computer is always winning. But you can see that it repeated this code 2 times, because it was the necessary time for the computer to win 2 rounds. So let me just change this back to 1. And so yeah, this is it. So this is the way to repeat code using the while statement. And now that we know which player wins the round, afterwards we can declare the game winner. So we're going to see that on the next video. So yeah, thank you guys. See you on the next one.